Welcome to Ghoul Talk.
Hey everyone, my name is Chris A. and welcome to Ghoul Talk. Ghoul Talk is a quick, hopefully accessible, conversational way to debunk, demystify some politically loaded phrases, talking points, symbols, things like that. Ghoul Talk is not a deep dive. It's not academically rigorous. I'm not an expert, but it's not meant to be any of those things. It's really just meant to be a conversation between me and you, the viewer. Let me get my... So today we are going to be talking about centrism and all the different forms it may take. So right off the bat, it sounds like, you've got your politically left, politically right, and your centrists. The reason I want to push back on this right off the bat is, and I've mentioned this several times before, the United States is politically very authoritarian right. Even the Democrats, even elected Democrats. So a true centrist in a global scale would need to be quite a bit more left than someone like Joe Biden, quite a bit more libertarian than someone like Joe Biden. But often that's not really the way that centrist is used. Many of the times that I've seen people describe themselves as centrists, it's meant to be, I am neither Republican nor Democrat, I am somewhere in between. And it's kind of meant to be this best of both worlds option. But I want to talk about why that doesn't really work. Centrism kind of assumes that there's only left and right, more specifically Democrat and Republican, and since they don't want to be either of those things, they are kind of staking out this center point. Of course, in the United States, our politics are vastly more complicated than that. You've got the kind of the far right Trumpists, and then you've got your establishment Republicans, you've got establishment Democrats, and then you've got your progressives, and then you've got your socialists, and then you've got communists beyond that. So it's very silly to say, I'm picking a center point of 2 points, when really there are, so many. It's a spectrum, so you could fall basically anywhere that makes sense. The reason this becomes problematic is so often, in my experience, every centrist that I've ever talked to uses their centrism as an excuse to basically abdicate any civil responsibility they may have. Because their thinking is, I don't like Democrats or Republicans, so I'm not going to vote. In general, what I've seen from this particular brand of centrists is they will put people down who vote, put people down who protest, who educate, who donate, but rarely do they have any political beliefs of their own, or rarely do they take any, civil action on their own. So this particular brand of centrism is basically just putting people down for believing in something. On its own, that's okay. But in my experience, the centrist mindset is an evangelical one. And what I mean by that is centrists want other people to be centrists, meaning people who are not politically engaged intentionally are going out of their way to make sure other people don't engage politically either. So I've seen a lot of centrists discourage voting and make fun of people for voting. Because again, so often centrism has no belief to itself. It's just about putting down other people's beliefs. Oftentimes you will hear centrists are white supremacists or centrists are conservatives. And again, there's some accuracy to that because, again, if you're between Democrats who are authoritarian right and Republicans who are farther authoritarian right, yes, centrism will be also authoritarian right. But I think a better way to think about it is centrism, because it so often discourages any political engagement whatsoever, necessarily benefits the status quo. And so if the status quo is, an unjust justice system, if the status quo is cops killing people in the street, if the status quo is too much money in politics, if the status quo is even our Democrats are conservative, if that's the status quo and your political belief is nothing I do matters and I should do nothing, I shouldn't even try to do anything, then you are helping preserve the status quo. And so again, if we've got this, this paradigm of progressivism, progress versus conservatism, conserve, stay the same, and centrism is let's not take any action, then they are necessarily closer to conservative than to progressive. But again, I think part of the whole centrism thing is I don't want to pick sides. So even though so many of my beliefs benefit conservatives and maybe even line up with conservatives, I don't want to pick a team because I know realistically that makes me look bad. Basically, I just want to observe that there is this demographic in the United States that seems to center around political apathy and takes pride in political disengagement. And that is what it is, but what's worrying to me is how paradoxically, these people who are by definition politically disengaged make a lot of effort to politically disengage other people or disillusion other people. I don't think there's anything we can do to oppose these people on an individual level, but I think continue to be engaged, continue to vote, continue to donate, continue to demonstrate, continue to petition your lawmakers. And don't engage with these folks because so often they are, again, they're just coming from a place of the biggest success I can get out of this is to disillusion you with everything, to make you a nihilist. And I don't think that's a good thing. I also want to talk about people who claim, they're not into politics or they don't like movies because they're too political or something like that. This kind of goes into the idea of centrism because there's no such thing as apolitical art. And I've said this in a couple of my videos before. All art reflects the values of the culture that it was created within, and even if it's not a movie that is explicitly making a political statement, every movie, song, drawing, everything is informed by its creator, which is informed by the society that has produced that creator. We see any movie before the 1990s, even the 2000s, was dreadfully white and straight and all this stuff. So I don't know how you can look at a movie from 1970 that has all white folks in it and say there's nothing political here when there were political forces which were preventing certain people from being parts of that movie or helping to write that movie or direct that movie. So if we start with that kind of foundation that all art is political in some way. When someone says, I'm not into politics, what they're really saying is, I'm not into stuff that challenges the beliefs I already hold. If I see a piece of art and I don't feel challenged, that to me is apolitical. And this is important to understand because the mindset of being a centrist is that my beliefs are the default. It's important to understand that your beliefs they don't exist in a vacuum. So centrists they're not apolitical people. It's just that their politics line up exactly with, I'm not going to do anything because I'm fine. Even trying to be apolitical is a political statement because you're saying things are fine the way they are. I don't see any need to change it. Or I don't think I can change it, so I'm just going to accept it. That is a political statement. That is a political belief. I also want to talk about how centrism or even political apathy is a position of privilege. And the reason I say that is, for example, if you've never worried about being killed by a police officer, you're probably a lot less likely to support things like police reform or defunding the police. If you're someone who has never suffered hunger or poverty, chances are you're less likely to care about those things. And so if you are someone who has the privilege of basically surviving or even thriving within the status quo, chances are you're going to be a lot less likely to want to change that status quo. And I also want to talk about the entitlement, which kind of ties into the privilege. I've heard this pretty solid comparison. You may have heard it before, but someone said, voting is like taking the bus. It's not like getting married. When you're getting married, you wait for the perfect person to come along, and you're not really interested in settling for anything less. But when you take the bus, if you refuse to take any bus that comes along because it doesn't go exactly to your destination, you're not going to get anywhere. At some point, you're going to have to pick a bus that gets you closest to where you want to go. And that's really what voting in a two-party system is. As problematic as a two-party system is, if you've got one choice that, agrees with you 50% and one choice that agrees with you 0%, and you just don't vote, you're not going to get closer to your goal, even if it's just incrementally. So the idea of I'm not going to vote because I don't like any of the candidates, to me that rings of entitlement. And again, privilege, because rarely is the value of life on the ballot for white, middle class, heterosexual, cisgender people. But that may not be the case for everyone. So if you're sitting out a vote that could result in more deaths for a marginalized group, it's hard to say that you're not, through inaction, allowing those deaths to happen. And the obvious example would be the 2020 election. If Donald Trump had won, we likely would have seen a lot more COVID deaths. So sitting it out and saying, well, I haven't gotten COVID, so it doesn't really matter to me, it's not going to make a difference to me who gets elected, even though it might make a difference to another 500,000 people who die from this virus, it doesn't make a difference to me. So I'm just going to sit it out. And that to me is kind of the biggest problem with centrism, political apathy, however you want to think about it. So thanks for watching. This has been Ghoul Talk. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please like, comment, subscribe to see more of this stuff, ring the bell, post it on Reddit, Discord, Twitter, Oh yeah, also I want to say thank you. I have just hit 300 subscribers, so thanks to each and every one of you. And let's keep it going. And I'll see you in a little bit.